All right. You ready?
Yeah.
New bottle time, just because.
So satisfying.
So for episode number 3, we are trying out Bulleit's 10-year Frontier Whiskey.
You'd have the satisfaction of hearing that. Yes. Once again, Clinton with the long pour.
Welcome to So Where To Next, a travel podcast with Clinton and Corey.
Woohoo!
Yay!
You're Clinton.
And that makes you Corey.
It does indeed, yes.
So today we are on episode 3, and we figured we'd dive into one of our favorite topics of camping. And I guess Corey's a late bloomer to camping. I've been camping for quite a while, but you know, it's really one of the best, accessible, and easiest ways to spend a weekend. And it's wonderful just to unplug and get away from it all and, you know, just be at one with the natures.
Be at one with the natures?
Yeah, be at one with the natures.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. So I'm a city mouse. So my experience with camping is regulated to summer camps and Girl Scouts when I was, you know, before age 13, because by the time you hit 12, stuff like that becomes not cool anymore.
True.
Or at least back in the 90s, it became not cool anymore. But I did go on a fair amount of camping trips and stuff when I was a kid, but that was the extent of my experience. I had been exposed just enough to know what it was, but to still not like bugs. Yeah. Actually, bugs I can handle. It's spiders. To still not like spiders.
Yeah, you still don't like spiders
I
at
can
all.
handle anything else, but not the spider.
So as I mentioned in the last episode, there are about 3 different categories of camping. And I actually kind of missed one last week. So I've got my bearings this week. So you've got your summer camping, which could be scouts, either Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or kind of church camp, adventure camp, whatever that you want to do. Highly organized, very organized. Somebody else is generally taking care of everything if you're at summer camp. And then you've got car camping, which is probably the most accessible form of camping. And then under that, you've got like just your regular campground camping, and then your off-grid boondocking, van life guys, overlanding, whatever. So that's
explain what that means. I don't know what boondocking means.
Boondocking is where you're pretty much completely self-sufficient.
Okay.
And you can like truly be off-grid. So you've got all your water, all your electricity needs, all your food, and you like disappear in the wilderness for a week or so, and you don't have to come back for food or electricity, you know, to recharge or ice or whatever. You're like completely self-contained.
I'm sure to some people that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm sure to other people, aka me, that sounds like I'm probably good for 2 days like that.
For 2 days like that.
Yeah.
And then the third category of camping is probably one that most people associate with camping is like backpacking or, you know, like truly roughing it out in the wilderness on the Appalachian Trail or something like that. So we'll primarily focus on the car camping aspect because that is what we do as a couple for our weekend escapes and what is probably most accessible to everybody else.
Yeah. So I will say that I had never done this before. I had never been to a campground. I had never, like, that was something I'd never done before you introduced me to this. So this was new for, like, the only exposure I had to campgrounds were like people that I knew who went to like Jellystone for Halloween or something, like or people that have campers. I mean, I did not know that there was any other way to do that.
Right.
So it just wasn't a thing that I ever did. But now, it's super fun, and I actually really enjoy doing it because it's super cheap.
Yeah.
So if you want to get away for a weekend, and I really do prefer doing it for a weekend and like 2 nights instead of just one, because if you're going to schlep all your stuff and get it all together and everything and set it all up and whatever, you definitely need more than just one night, because then you're packing it back up again. So 2 nights for sure. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it because, I kind of have some prerequisites,
some comfort requirements.
Yeah. I'm not so much of a city mouse that I'm not willing to rough it for a couple of days, but I definitely do appreciate toilets and showers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are important. Maybe the toilet more so than the shower in some cases. As long as I have water nearby, I'm good, but especially if we're just there for a couple of days. But yeah, the toilet thing is kind of important to we females.
Yeah. And then, much like our topic last week, like finding a location is key when you want to start camping. We typically like to go to lakes or, a river that is connected to a lake. So we like a body of water nearby. And as Corey said, that's because we like to have coffee and watch the sunrise or watch the sunset and over the lake, which is always really pretty here in Kentucky. And we like to get our paddle boards out and, have some little activity that way. We also like to have trails or roads nearby if we want to go for a hike or take the bikes out and, go for a ride in the countryside. But that being said, there's also, campsites in the woods where you're just surrounded by trees in a forest, or there's campsites on a beach if you want a beach trip, which would be super fun. And we haven't delved into that yet because we're 600 miles inland, but one day we will camp on the beach. And, and there's all different types of flavors and amenities that come along with camping in an organized campground. So we typically like state parks, and the Army Corps of Engineers has some great campsites throughout Kentucky. National forests have great campsites. National parks have great campsites. Most of those are organized around some sort of facility. So there'll be a shower house nearby with, clean water and showers and toilets and everything. And then typically each campsite will have like some sort of hookups for an RV and, both power and water. And so that's really helpful, just to have that right on hand at your campsite. If you have a campsite that doesn't have any hookups, then you might need to walk up to the shower house or whatever to refill your water jugs and whatnot, which isn't bad, but it's nice just to have everything right on site where you are.
For us, because we don't have a camper, which we'll get to that. But since we don't have a camper, I do prefer, we take a lot of water with us when we go, but I do prefer to be in a, in a spot in a campsite. I do prefer to be waterfront for one, or wherever there's a view if there's not water there. But I really do prefer water because it really just is beautiful. And for me, water, like a lake or a river or a babbling brook, whatever, the ocean, whatever. Yeah, it just brings a sense of peace. And I just really like that. And that's not something we get. We are landlocked, as Clinton mentioned, so we don't get a lot of that. So if we have an opportunity to go to a lake or another place, there's also a lot of really cool wildlife around bodies of water. So the last place we went had tons of crane and geese and which they're really cool when they come in at night and they put their landing gear down and they all make this really cool whooshing sound when they hit the water. It's just really cool. And I'm like, oh man, that was like the greatest added bonus of that weekend was getting to hear those birds come and go. But it is very nice if you happen to find yourself in a campsite spot that has a water hookup, because it's just so helpful. It's like when you're doing dishes and whatever. So, I mean, it is just nice to have.
Yeah.
So, and you can like bird bath there and whatever, clean up or rinse off or whatever. And you don't have to hike up to your
Right.
bathroom and wait. And like the last campsite, it was really busy. Like I had to wait, you know, I'm not opposed to walking into the men's room, so I don't have to wait in a ladies' room. But ladies' rooms are always really crowded, particularly if the weather's really nice at a campsite. So it's like, I'm like, no, I'd rather like, I'm just going to like stand under this spigot for a minute and,
Right.
and clean off instead of hike all the way up and wait in line. Like, ugh.
But the other, like, and the key point of camping that is certainly enticing to us is that it is so cheap. Typically, Army Corps campsites are around $15 to $20, and then if you're in a state park, maybe, or depending on the campsite, maybe up to $40 a night. So it is so much more affordable than an Airbnb or a hotel, and so that's definitely a big factor that you can be a little more spontaneous. Spontaneous. That's it. Spontaneous.
That's the word.
That that you're not out a whole bunch if to go camping. It's really great, and then we spend our money on like eating really well once we're there.
Well, yeah, I mean we plan that actually before we go. I mean so planning a camping trip it's taken us a few years to build up our supplies that we take with us and to organize them properly. But we finally have a really cool kind of method and groove with that. But I have packing lists for camping and for going to the beach and for going on this random trip or that random trip or whatever. But camping is no different as far as planning goes for me because I do a lot of the cooking when we're there, and we eat as well, if not better, when we're camping than when we're at home or if we were to even go out to a restaurant. I mean, for us, as much as we really like exploring different places and doing different things, because we are car campers, typically once we get set up, we're set up and we're not leaving.
Right. Because our car is central to our
car is
camping.
Part of the camping experience. We had somebody that said to Clinton once recently, "You have so much cool stuff hanging off of your car." It's like, yes, we do. We have awnings, and we have
hammock chairs
that hang off the trailer hitch, and we have our bed on the inside of the car, and which I'm sure Clinton will get into. But I mean the car is our camper basically.
Right.
So once we park and we get set up, that is where we are, unless we walk somewhere or paddle somewhere or whatever, which is possible. Those things are possible. But usually we like to just kind of hang out and enjoy the area, put on some good music, hang out, have a campfire if the weather permits, and then there's no like burn bans or anything, and food, have a beverage.
Yeah, it is definitely our decompress and unplug time.
For sure. And it's super peaceful. Even if you're surrounded by people that are in the campsites near you or next to you. I think there's maybe only ever been once or twice that we had, we parked once next to a huge camper that had really bright lights that stayed on at night. I do remember that was like really obnoxious. Terrible. And there's always little kids running around, people with dogs and stuff. But I've never really been bothered by any of that. It's, maybe somebody's got loud music. And I mean, I'm more bothered by the boats that float by, the people that are raising hell, like on their boats during the day, like, woo! And like dragging their kids around on those inflatable tubes or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, that's always driven me more crazy is boat traffic than people around us. Right. Usually the people around us are super nice, and you end up striking up conversations or asking people about their camping setup. And people are always really curious about ours because they're like, "Are you sleeping in your car?" Like, yeah, we are. You want to see?
And so, that's pretty much where we've landed on the car camping end. Now, we have done a backpacking trip. One of our early weekends when we were first married, I took Corey on her first backpacking trip just up the road to Mammoth Cave, and boy, that was an experience. And so maybe roughing it is not for Corey so much.
I actually liked it. Now, we should say, so I don't know what overlanding or whatever you want to call what we did. I don't know what the actual term for it is, but Clinton strapped this big backpack thing to me that was full of stuff.
Yeah.
I did not know.
This was backpacking.
It was.
Overlanding is in your car when you've got like a big Sprinter van or Jeep or whatever.
See, I don't know what all the words are. All I know is he put a huge words. There's lots of them. It's like names for things. Clinton put this backpack on me that was half as big as I am and expected me to walk 3 miles back into the wilderness, which is fine. I can walk. Walking's fine.
Walking is fun.
Walking's cool. I can do that. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't weird. I mean, it was October, so it was cold and it was kind of rainy. But it was fine. But what was really cool, like this was really it was my first ever backpacking experience, but it was our first ever camping experience together. And so it was like a big first, and Clinton, it was adorable. It was like he was taking me on our first date or something, because he had everything planned. He even bought me a fancy, sleeping bag. Yeah. And see, I don't even know what to call the thing you sleep in, and he had his tent and he had his freeze dried food. And he had all this stuff, and it was adorable. And I was totally endeared to it. I was like, I'm in it to win it. This is not my thing by any stretch, but I'm in this. So, but it was totally fun until
Yeah, of course, the National Park Service has reservations for campsites, even in the backcountry. At least Mammoth Cave does. And I'm sure just about every national park property has some sort of reservation system for campsites. And so I had registered, this particular campsite well in advance. And thankfully, I printed off the receipt and packed it with me because we needed it when we found somebody squatting in our campsite.
Yeah, this person wasn't just camping there for the night either. It looked like this.
He had been there a while.
He had been there for a hot minute.
He was entrenched.
He was set up and he was living. I would venture to say he'd been there for a hot minute. Yeah. So, and he had a kid with him. And
which made it even more awkward.
It was super awkward. And he had a dog, like one of those dogs that has like an eyeball up here and like one down there. I mean, it was like, oh God. I mean, so we get there, and of course we get there and this dude is like, what's up? And we're like, hey man, we reserved this space. He's like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. And he goes, well, so what, you want me to leave? And we were like, yeah. Actually, I've got the receipt right here in my hand. And so, of course, he looks at me and he's eating, Beanie Weenies or whatever out of the can with like a Bowie knife or something. And so he looks at me, waves the knife at me, and it's like, well, that group up there got the idea, and pointed to a bunch of college kids that were also illegally camping in, just up on a ridge somewhere, not even at a campsite. And I was like, well, they're also camping illegally because I've rented this spot. And after a brief, quiet standoff, he threw another log on his campfire and finished his dinner and packed up. Took him at least 45 minutes to do this. Meanwhile,
and then
at this point,
slinked off.
It's fully raining this point. So we're probably going to hell one day because we booted this dude, his kid, and his walleye dog out of a campsite at whatever time of night it was, just before the sun went down by the time we got back there. And it was raining in October. And we were like, bye. And they left, but we were terrified. We thought we were going to die like all night. I don't think either of us got any sleep because we were convinced that this dude was going to come back and axe murder us in our sleep. And the only solace that I had in that was that he had a kid with him. Because I'm like, nope, he's got a kid with him. He's not going to kill us because there's a kid involved. So yeah, we were actually, our neighbor was a police officer at the time. And so we were calling him and like dropping a pin in our location and stuff like, hey man, this is where we are in case we don't come home tomorrow. That's also to say you should always let somebody know when you're camping, so somebody knows your location if, God forbid, you get eaten by a bear or something and somebody needs to come look for you. But we did survive the night. It did rain on us, though, like literally and figuratively. Yeah. But it was Our tent had a hole in the top, so we literally got rained on all night. But it was actually fine. I mean, it wasn't too cold because Clinton bought me the greatest sleeping bag in the history of time. And if you asked me to tell you what kind it is, I couldn't tell you. He probably, I don't know. But it was great, and I was cozy, and it was fine. And we sort of made it through the night. Although this was where Corey discovered Corey's aversion to sleeping on the cold, hard ground.
Yeah.
Which, sister girlfriend, your girl does not like sleeping on the ground at all. So, so this is why over time we have developed lots of different sleeping solutions for the car camping situation. Right. So, and now we actually, after a not short period of time, we've actually finally come up with something that's, awesome for me and my old lady, like back, hip, shoulder pain and all that. But it really is fun, and it really is cool. And so, if anybody's interested in trying it, I will say there are no novices out there that are more novice than me where it came to this. And I really do enjoy it. And there was a period of time we tried to get out once a month. Our schedules just don't really allow that. But I would absolutely encourage anybody, like if you got seats that fold down in the back of your car, you can do this.
Right.
You probably have the stuff at home that you need to just give it a try and see what you think. Or if you're a tent person, I mean, we've taken tents out too, because we took the kids with us a couple of times and blew up an air mattress and they slept on it.
Yeah,
and that was fine. I mean, I did that at Bonnaroo once, but it was also 10 million degrees. So sleeping on an air mattress in a glamping tent at Bonnaroo is definitely not the same as like at a campground next to a lake.
Yeah. And that's a perfect, lead into like sleep systems, because obviously that's, probably the most important part of camping is how you're going to sleep. We've already gotten the where you're going to sleep out of the way. The most common is, either in your car like we do, or, a tent, which lots of people set up tents at their organized campground sites. They just park next to it, throw up a tent and camp and have a great weekend.
We've seen people with tents that have Blackstone grills set up next to them. Like they set up like this kick-ass cooking system and they're sleeping on the ground in a sleeping bag.
In a 6-person tent. So it's like, whatever your imagination comes up with, like it can be done for sure. And so typically you need like a tent or a shelter of some kind. Like we said, ours is our car. And then you need something to sleep on. Typically you'll get either a closed foam pad if you're like on the ultralight end, or there's lots of inflatable mattresses. There are cots that can collapse down and be comfortable. There are air mattresses, and we've had pretty much the whole gamut of things that we have tried in our evolution of car camping. Right now we are using a memory foam mattress topper, which has actually turned out to be really, really comfortable.
Yes, a 4-inch, isn't it? I think it's a 4-inch mattress topper that I bought on Amazon for like $100, if even. Actually, I think it was more like 75. It wasn't anything, because the back of our car and the platform that we have is pretty much a full size. Mm-hmm. So that mattress fit perfectly. And it, we can roll it up. And of course, it's still pretty big when you roll it up, but we just throw it in the back of the car.
Yeah.
And it rolls out perfectly. Put a sheet on it. You have whatever you need. You don't even need sleeping bags if you do it this way.
Yeah,
you
not
just
really.
take
we
pillows,
just have a couple of blankets,
and that's pretty much it. But it works out great, and it doesn't hurt me. And I mean, I'm the one with like back and hip issues, like mainly like old lady hip issues. I'm serious. It's a nightmare, but it agrees with me and the way that I sleep. And I don't really tend to I don't sleep very well on camping sleeping pads, but I know people like Clinton really think they're fine. Mm-hmm. You don't have any problem with them at all. And you do really, really well. I'm the one that I'm up and tossing around all night long in a good day, my best day. So for me, it's like, in order to, and we've talked about in our previous episodes about if your sleeping situation is uncomfortable, it's going to damper your experience all across the board. So even though you actually for us, we spend the least amount of time sleeping when we're camping. We're mostly outside hanging out, sitting by a fire, listening to music, doing whatever. We took Cards Against Humanity once. We took with the kids because we're parents like that.
Hilarious.
We're those parents. But we're always doing something. So really, it's only like once everybody's pretty much done for the night that we're like, okay, we crawl in the back of the car, and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had any issue. I think probably another thing that's pretty important, one of the things that we bought since we are actually sleeping in the car, is make sure you have a way to cover up your windows to block the light out.
Mm-hmm.
Refer back to my previous comment about the giant camper with the huge LED lights, which was really terrible. Or sometimes there might be a street light.
Right.
Because some campsites do have street lights intermittently throughout the property. Most of them don't. But some of them have.
Sure.
But like we did buy window covers that are specifically made for our type of vehicle. You can buy all the stuff on Amazon, all of it. Like I think most of our
or your local Cabela's or
seriously,
your
they have
local
all that.
sporting goods store. They have just tons and tons of stuff.
Or you can go old school and just use like one of those window shades, the sunshade that you would put in your window in the summer, or take a towel or a blanket and throw it over your window.
And we've done that also.
Yeah. We've done any number of these things and still do when we go. Just sort of depends on what's going on and, how much light pollution there is. Or if you're a person or you could take even a sleep mask. Like people wear those on airplanes and stuff all the time. You could do that. But yeah, so that was sort of like we were talking about Corey's creature comforts. That's one of them, is being able to block out light. I really love the sounds at night though. So I really do kind of like to sleep with the windows cracked or open if it's not cold, and listen to the sounds outside because, animals, crickets and whatnot.
Yep, exactly. So staying with the sleep system, if you do use a sleeping bag, then pay attention to the temperature ratings, and you want to get a bag that's appropriate for the temperature that you're going to be camping in. And the temperature ratings on most sleeping bags are like the most extreme, like survival range or whatever. So if you have, say, a 32 degree bag, then that's like the very most that it'll keep you warm. So generally you want to keep that for when it's a little bit warmer than 32. So if you're thinking that that's going to keep you warm down to freezing, then you'll be cold. So whatever temperature you think you might be in, then add like 10 or 15 degrees or subtract 10 or 15 degrees and get that level sleeping bag. So we have 20 degree sleeping bags, and that keeps us warm for, the shoulder seasons in the fall and the spring. If you're going to be winter camping, then you want a sleeping bag that's like in the negatives rating. Like some of the biggest mountaineering sleeping bags are like -40, and they're crazy warm. But for the most part in the summer, you could get by with like a fleece sleeping bag that's like a 50 degree bag, and, just regulate your temperature because that's certainly important.
Yeah, I think it matters too if you sleep hot or if you're cold.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there are times, like I want to say it was when we were at the Grand Canyon that, I thought we were going to, I was going to fry. I was so hot in the sleeping bag. But it was also really cold. Like we didn't expect that it was going to be.
Yeah, it was 34 degrees.
30 degrees at night. Of course, in the desert, it gets cold at night. We know this. But it was really so much colder than I expected. And my sleeping bag, I was plenty warm.
Yeah.
Plenty warm.
So all that to say, just keep those temperature ratings in mind so that you're comfortable at night, and you can adjust with blankets or, whatever as needed if you're on the cold end. And then if you're warm, we like to crack the windows in our car, and there are some mesh sleeves that go over the back doors. And we use a couple of USB fans that just keep air circulating to keep us cool so that we're not completely dying.
Yeah, I prefer that. So we've had battery operated fans too, but they run on like those enormous D batteries. Yeah. And I don't know what it is about those huge batteries, but they run out really quickly. The USB fans are definitely better. And you'll want something like check out what you have and the back of your car to clip something to, because like we didn't necessarily, because the first fans that we got, they were great. They were the battery operated and they have huge clips on them, but we didn't necessarily have something that would hold their weight because they were pretty heavy.
Sure.
So that was weird. But I found this cool thing, believe it or not, I found it on Shein. I can't believe it, but it's this like double fan that the two fans move up and down, and it sits on the dashboard of your car, and it works with the USB.
Yep.
And it could not be
like
more perfect.
$10.
If even like, and it could not be more perfect for camping in your car. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. So, so we have that. We have a couple other ones, and especially if you're camping in the summer, those clip fans can be really great if you're hot out. And that's another reason that I like a body of water, because if it's 90, 100 degrees outside, you literally go jump in the lake and get on your floaty and go hang out in the lake for a while. And I love that. I mean, I think it's great. Or get on the paddleboard, or do like me. I did a nice unintended backflip off my paddleboard into the lake one day, and I was plenty cool for a while.
It was very refreshing.
It was quite refreshing. Yes, it was. Yes, indeed it was.
But we've, run the whole spectrum through our evolution of car camping, from, the thinnest memory foam thing that didn't fit both of us on it in the back of the car. And then we have a Subaru Ascent, and any Subaru owners know that have the Ascent that typically if you have the captain's chairs, they don't lie completely flat. And there's quite a few big voids that you have to fill. And so we got some inflatable stuff to fill that. And it worked for a little bit, but it wasn't super comfortable. And then
I want to say something about that really quickly.
Okay.
So whatever car you have that you're interested in camping in, I've got to give a shout out to the Subaru car camping forums on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because the Ascent forum and the Subaru car camping forums have been where we found a ton of resources from other people that have vehicles like ours that are working to like make a special setup, or how to pack your gear, or how to do your sleep system, or whatever. And, if you get into it and you decide that you really like it, these forums for whatever kind of car you have are an awesome place to find resources for how to build things out, some DIY projects, or, just learn from other people across the country, cool places to go, different ways that they camp, people that like to take their dog, or people that like to take their kids. And it's always really cool to find other people who kind of have a shared experience that enjoy doing the same thing that you do. So that is where we found a ton of resources just for our particular vehicle. And we did intentionally purchase our vehicle with camping in mind. Right. Either we're going to camp in this thing with this thing, or we're going to haul something to camp in with this thing. And we absolutely have used it, and it was totally worth it.
Oh, absolutely. And so, we've gone, like I said, our whole evolution was inflatable mattresses. And I think we've gone through 2 inflatable mattresses of varying sizes now. And then, like Corey said, we got on Facebook and in the forums, and people are building like these plywood platforms. And there's an entire industry now built around car camping. There's so many companies out there that have camping kits tailor made for your vehicle that can make that super easy. And I ran across a really ingenious idea on YouTube, because I spend quite a bit of time on YouTube looking at camping stuff, and found the setup that this guy had made for his Honda, and downloaded his plans and remeasured everything for our car. So now I've built our own little custom platform for our Subaru Ascent that levels our sleeping area. So now we're not like head up against the ceiling and our feet all the way at the bottom. So we're level. It gives us a little bit of storage. I had a bunch of plywood from an old climbing wall that I had, so I just repurposed that. And we have a really solid sleeping platform now that collapses down so that we can use the back seats if we need to, and is really a stable platform for us to sleep on. So there's no, flopping around on our air mattress.
You're
that
not
sometimes
deflating or Yeah, because air mattresses like to deflate on me when I'm on those things. I'm like, oh man, I've got a hip like directly boring into the ground. But
so now we are really riding high on our sleep platform, and like I said, it gives us a little bit of storage underneath that, which is super fun. And so yeah, we finally, after 3 or 4 years, have that dialed in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the most recent thing that we've been building out is our camp kitchen.
Yes.
And we have we have a whole setup. We have tables. We've got a table that's really cool table actually that serves as a sink and a prep area and a place to it has a little drying area. You can hang your utensils on it. It's really nice. And it comes in this little carry bag thing and it's super handy.
It is super handy.
It's super handy.
That's right.
But even I can set it up. So that's helpful too, that, it's not so cumbersome that I can't lift it and set it up and stuff. But yeah, so we have that, and we have, over time, as I mentioned, we've kind of built up stuff, and we have a full, really well functioning kitchen for our camping setup. And Clinton recently bought some stuff for, you can talk about all the stuff you just got to organize our kitchen to kind of make it a little easier, because we had everything in a great big plastic bin, just kind of stuffed all in there. And then, all weekend long, when you need something, you're having to go and dig for it, pull it out, rehook it together, go dig, rehook. All weekend
all
long.
the time.
And so now we don't have to do that anymore. I'm pretty excited.
Because thank you to some geniuses on YouTube. Again, they have started utilizing these modular toolboxes that just about every tool company is making now. We went with the Milwaukee Tool Packout system that is this modular toolbox. And we got a large bottom compartment that has an extendable handle and wheels that we put our 2 camp stoves in, our 2 tea kettles, our 2 water kettles that we heat up water with, and our French press, and a skillet, and our tablecloth, and everything. So that's all in the bottom one. And then our middle component is a drawer system. So we have it set up pretty much just like our drawers in our kitchen. So instead of rifling through one of those giant 70-liter totes that everybody has that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever, looking for all your items, everything is really organized in these 2 drawers. So we have all of our utensils and pots and measuring cups and everything are all in these 2 drawers. Which makes it so easy.
Basically all of your old utensils or old cutting knives or cutting boards or all the crap you were putting aside to send to college with your kid and make camping stuff out of it. So, we have plastic plates that we take with us that are kind of I think once upon a time they were intended to be outdoor plates.
Right.
But, we have...
They still are outdoor plates.
Yeah. Well, yes, of course. But, and silverware bowls, things you think you'll need. And we cook something different every time. We do a lot of one skillet. We bought this awesome, humongous iron skillet.
Yeah.
That is the greatest thing in the world. And it's so great that I need to buy a second one that's just exclusively for camping, and then one for the house, because it has basically replaced everything that I cook in my house, because I love this thing. I think I got it. It was a Lodge skillet, and I think I paid $25 for it.
It's huge. It's amazing.
I don't know if it's a 14-inch or what. It's big. But and that has become what we cook almost everything on. You could cook over a campfire with it if you wanted to. We just have a couple of little gas stoves that we use, and we cook all kinds of things. There are camping cookbooks out there, and we have pretty much all of them.
A couple of them, yeah.
But Pinterest is also your friend in this case, because you can find all kinds of really cool ideas for food to make when you're camping. But really though, you don't even... that's fun for ideas. We made s'mores and ice cream cones once and stuff. Those are fun. But anything that you can cook in one skillet or one pot, which is almost anything anymore.
Yeah, you can take the campsite.
You can take to a campsite. All you need are whatever utensils you would have, or you can do all of your prep at home, which is what I usually do. So it does take a little bit of planning to make sure that if you need to chop anything up, you've already done that ahead of time. Or if you need spices, you make sure to bring those with you, or
measure them out
at
home if you want.
Yeah. And we plan breakfast, lunch, dinner. You know, we might do some kind of like camping charcuterie, which is not nearly as fancy as charcuterie usually is, but
hey, it's still pretty darn good.
It is. So, I mean, like we just do, you know, just whatever you like. I mean, you don't have to eat your food out of a foil packet. I mean, you can. You certainly can. I mean, lots of people do that, but all you need is, you know, a hot surface and whatever food you want to cook. But like
and a system to keep all your stuff cold when you're not cooking it.
I mean, some of the very best tacos we've ever had were cooked by a friend of ours who sous vide'd a bunch of I'm saying that right? He did a bunch of stuff sous vide. I think I said it right. Anyway, Bill will tell me if it's wrong. But anyway, like seriously, I mean, he just cooked them over iron skillets over an open fire.
Yeah, and it was amazing.
They were freaking crazy good. So good. So, I mean, you could do anything. I mean, but your food, you need to plan your food in advance so that you can, you know, eat great. Or if you don't care, then just take a peanut butter and jelly with you. You can do that too. But that's not nearly as fun as cooking your food outside because there's just something about cooking your food outside that's cool. And what's funny about this, though, is that we don't actually grill that much. You would think that we would probably do that a lot at home, but we really don't. But yeah, I mean, you can plan your food out and take it with you. And I think probably one of the biggest challenges that I have had is making sure that everything's plenty cold, because after a while your ice will melt, especially if it's hot in the summer, or after a while, those big like brick freezer block things that come with your coolers or whatever will get warm after some time. I mean, we've never had a problem keeping everything cold for a weekend, but it's never quite been as cold as I wanted to. And then if God forbid, if you have leftovers,
right,
you can't, they're not going to make it home. There's no way. So you really do have to kind of plan your portions to make sure if you don't have a way to keep your stuff cold to bring it back home, that you're taking only what you need and leaving nothing behind.
Right.
So, but we have a new solution for that too.
Yes. And so I went down a rabbit hole over the summer of these 12-volt electric coolers that are prolific like everywhere. I mean, there's so many companies making them. That is basically an electric cooler that will fit in the like the lighter plug socket in your car, and you can run it while you're driving to your destination. And then it also has an AC plug. So again, if you're at a campsite that has hookups, both electric and water, then you can run an extension cord or a power strip and plug it into the electric part. And then you can run your cooler all weekend off of what they call shore power, where your hookups, or if you get one of those giant battery packs from, Anchor or Jackery or Blue Eddy or EcoFlow or whoever makes those everywhere, that you can run your whole campsite off of this battery system. And that way you don't have to run out of ice and, or the ice melts and all your food gets soggy. And because we've been there too.
Yeah, that's kind of gross.
And, those big freezer blocks eventually lose all their cool.
Well,
and they take up space.
Too. They do. Yeah, they do. Exactly. But like we did buy a battery pack thing, because y'all are probably wondering like, okay, well, how are you keeping all this? You're going to run your battery out of your car.
Right. Exactly.
Because you're running USB here and there and whatever. We did find an affordable little portable battery system that lasts for 12 hours or something, or I don't know how long.
Like
longer than that.
Longer. I think we ran our USB fans and, some of our USB lights that we hooked up to our awning and everything.
Our phones.
Yeah. And I think we maybe got just barely under 80%.
Oh, really?
So it'll last us a long time for
and the thing, it's small. It's like, it's the size of a lunchbox-ish. Like it's small, and I don't think it was too terrible, because the problem with some of those portable batteries is they are very expensive and they're really heavy.
Right.
And we have inflatable paddle boards. So we needed, we typically turn on the car and plug in this inflator thing for those, because my car is awesome and it has like a cigarette lighter plug in thing in the way back of the car also. So that's super handy yet once again. But the little portable battery dude works really well too.
Right. And I think it's just it's like a 200-watt one. So it's on the smaller end. if we do start overlanding or boondocking where we're completely off grid, then we'd probably have to upgrade our battery to run the fridge all weekend. Or get solar power or whatever to run all that. But that's something that we're looking forward to in the future, not necessarily right now.
Well, it works great for what we're doing now. And I think what we're doing now is probably what's most accessible for most people is like pick a campsite in a place maybe you've always wanted to go or see, or something peaceful. And what I like about some of these campsites is you can go online now and pick out your campsite and you can see the surroundings of wherever it is. Like, it's not just like look at a map and pick one. You can actually get a picture with the visual of where you're actually going to be parked so that you can plan sort of, what you're like. Can you hang a hammock up right here?
Right.
For example,
there enough trees
we typically look for somewhere where we can hang a hammock up because we like that too. So,
yep. And I typically use the recreation.gov app on our phone, and that has all the federal campsites, national parks, Army Corps, national forest sites that are all in that database. And they usually have pictures of each site. And in addition to a map that you can look and see like exactly where you're going to be. So like Corey said, we always try to look for waterfront so that we can air up our paddle boards and hop on the water right from our campsite instead of maybe having to truck over to a boat ramp or whatever to get on the water. So if we can, we try to get right on the water and do that. So, and then eventually I will also do a video walkthrough of our whole camp setup. Once we actually have time to go camping and get it all set up, then we'll add that to our YouTube channel so that you can visually see kind of how we have our stuff set up. And we've got it streamlined really well to where it's pretty simple. It sounds complex and there's a lot of parts to it, but it doesn't take us long to get set up and going at all.
No, it really doesn't. And that's kind of part of the fun of it. I think our setup is pretty, I don't know if it's elaborate compared to other people. I don't have any idea. I can say that I've seen people with full out campers who don't need to set up all this stuff outside, still set up all this stuff outside and like so much Mountain Dew. Oh my God. Like I don't know what it is about people that come to Kentucky to go camping and they bring the Mountain Dew. But I have seen people set up all the stuff. The one thing, and it's funny, just by looking around, you get ideas from people.
Yep.
Like the last time we went camping, I was like, we need a broom. Why didn't we bring a broom?
Yeah,
because
we need a little collapsible broom.
Yeah, and they make these like telescoping brooms that are little or big or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I ever think of this? We need a broom. So, that's on my list for one of the future things that we need to make sure to get before we go camping. But, really I saw this and it's ridiculous because once you start going down rabbit holes of gear or like little details that will make your experience more fun or more comfortable or, oh, that would be cool. I just found this really neat retractable LED light thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, we ended up using it at our daughter's birthday party because we needed a light for outside. I'm like, where are all our lanterns? But oh wait, I just bought this thing and it was super cool. You can either pull the long LED light out of the thing or you can leave it in and it's this little lantern and it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I will string up little fairy lights all around our awning so that we have lights at night. And they're little USB fairy lights, which are perfect and they're really cute, but they're also kind of a pain. And so now I'm like, oh, I've got this new cool LED retractable thing that I don't have to like twist around a plastic knife every time to wind it back up again.
Yeah.
But that said, I love my fairy lights. They're awesome. I probably won't quit using them, but now we have this new, so just little things that make your experience more comfortable.
Yeah, creature comforts.
Yeah. And then, I find things on sale in random places. We were walking through a Kohl's one day and they had these collapsible tables with cup holders in them. And I was like, look at that. That would be perfect for a campsite. And it is. And, or like, you could be walking through anywhere and be like, oh man, that would be really cool for our campsite. And but it, like I said, it takes a while to build up to that, especially if you've never really done it before, or if maybe when you were a kid or when you were a teenager, you used to like to go camping a whole lot, or, maybe you want to give it a try. And I think a lot of people here camping, and maybe like me, I was like, oh my God, no, that involves like trees and outside and sleeping on the ground. And no, that is not me at all. And I would honestly say several years ago, that would have been me. Even though I lived in the wilderness for a great period of my life, I didn't actually go out in the wilderness. I would like sit on the back porch and enjoy the wilderness. So it really is very, very nice. And it is an awesome way to escape close to home for most of us. And just get out and enjoy being outside. You don't have to hike. You can sit in a hammock and read a book all weekend, or go float around on the lake somewhere, or, or if water's not your thing. I mean, there's plenty of other options just to hang out and just enjoy not being home for a couple of days.
It's an unplug and decompress weekend when we're camping, and we just relish doing nothing. I might get up and paddleboard in the morning or go for a run or whatever, but otherwise we are sitting in a hammock, or we got these great hammock chairs that have this whole bracket that fit in our trailer hitch on the car. And so we can either put a regular hammock, configure it for a regular sideways hammock, or we've got these 2 hammock chairs that sit in it. And so you will find us there like all weekend, reading a book,
more random,
listening to music, and just like hanging out, just completely unplugging and decompressing.
Yeah, literally hanging out. I mean, and I have to say, Amazon for the win on the hammock contraption.
Yeah.
And Aldi.
Half of our camping stuff has actually come from Aldi.
Seriously, Aldi for the rope chair, for the like hammock chairs.
Yeah, $25.
I was so excited. I was like, I'm buying that. Like, I don't have anywhere to put it yet, but I'm buying it. And it was.
But our collapsible sinks have come from Aldi, and we've gotten 1 or 2 other things from Aldi. Like, honestly, the Aldi Finds aisle, the Aisle of Shame.
Aisle of Shame.
Like, it is amazing. There are some true hidden gems at Aldi for camping.
I mean, it's seriously, you see stuff in places that you would never, I mean, you'd never think of it. But it turns out to be really super cool. So I'm ready. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to plan a camping trip like right now.
Yes.
Let's go. So where
to next?
It's fine.
This is what makes the podcast magic.
Yeah.
It worked for the trail running podcast that I did.
Well, that was beer, though.
It was a little bit of everything.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, I just ate an Oreo, so
yeah, I did too.
I can confidently say that Bullet Tenure pairs beautifully
with Oreos,
with Halloween Oreos. But it's it complements beautifully the orange food coloring in the cream filling.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
That's perfect.
Yeah.